listening to the Armchair Ninja podcast. Here is your host, Rich.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Armchair Ninja podcast on Saturday, February 6th, 2016. My name is Rich, and with me once again this week is my co-host, Bijan. How you making out?
What up, Rich? What up, everybody? I'm feeling it, man. Let's get it on the road.
Yeah. So we're going to do 2 episodes this week just because there was so much to cover between the special and Team Ninja Warrior that we thought we'd break it up. So here we go. Let's jump right into it. So we've got 4 exciting teams this week. We've got the Expendabulls, the Tre Amigos, Team Alpha, and Stratisfaction. Man, I was hyped for this episode. What did you think? Were you thinking it was going to be a good one?
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a good one. It was actually, it lived up to the hype, man. It was really fun. I really liked the matchups in this particular episode, and man, there were some surprises in this episode too. We'll talk about it later, but there were definitely some things that I was not expecting to happen.
Yeah, a few upsets for sure. With these strong teams, though, it's hard to say, who's going to win from matchup to matchup, and then the whole team aspect, right? So you might have one member of the team that pulls their weight and another that doesn't, and it can all kind of balance out in the end. So, yeah. First things first, the floating steps, this new obstacle, right? The 5th obstacle that got swapped out. I liked them. I thought they were pretty good. Nothing's really kind of compared to that pole grasper from the first episode, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. The pole grasper was a great one. It messed up a lot of people. A lot of these obstacles that replace them, they're just more transitional obstacles where it gives competitors a chance to catch up to the other athlete in many ways, but they don't necessarily seem like they're killer obstacles. To this day, still the dancing stones is like the main one where you have to be careful at.
Yeah, and it's funny, it's the one that's most overlooked, and that's probably why it's causing so many falls.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if the athletes or the teams were able to watch other teams run, you'd have to think they would. And if I was watching other teams go, I'd be like, all right, these dancing stones, I kind of have to just, I don't have to be overly cautious, but I at least have to look at where I'm stepping, It looks like a lot of these athletes are just like keeping their head up, not even looking at the stones and their foot placement, and it's really messing them up.
Yeah, it's almost like they're forgetting that they move. If they were fixed, I'm sure they'd be blazing right through them, but they do move a little bit as you're trying to get across.
Yeah, I very much feel like in person, they are much more difficult than they look on TV. I mean, they look difficult on TV, but it's kind of like the warped wall where you only get somewhat of a feel of the difficulty of them. I have a feeling they're way more difficult than they look.
All right, so looking at our first matchup, we had the Stratisfaction versus Team Alpha. So it just led to all these little cool matchups, right? We're seeing Mike Bernardo versus Evan Dollard right off the bat. I was pretty excited for this little matchup.
Yeah, pretty similar builds.
Yeah, big guys, very upper body intensive. But man, they're like for all the bigger guys and the very top heavy guys that we had on this episode, they all really held their own. There wasn't anybody falling behind in this episode.
Yeah, I was surprised about the speed, especially by Mark Bernard. He was really fast for a big guy. Like he really impressed me. He might have been the MVP of the episode for me. Very, very good.
Yeah, so they both did well, but Bernardo just killed it in the end and just pulled away. Evan couldn't catch up. But yeah, it was a good first matchup. So then we get to see the mighty Casey next. So Casey Catanzaro versus Grace Jones. And you know what? If I was going to pick an MVP, I'd actually, maybe a little strange, but I'd give it to Grace. She really impressed me. She stood out. She held her own. There was really... I didn't expect her to do so well against Casey and Lucy as she did.
Yeah, great pick for MVP this week. Grace really surprised me very much. She's much more of a lesser known competitor, and she really held her own. And it's not even like a relative hold your own to like lesser known competitors. I mean, she was going at a very good pace. She kept up with Casey Catanzaro, who everybody knows is quite high adept at this competition and sport. And overall, she's just very, very good. I think it lends a lot to just her stature. You kind of look at her and her stature doesn't scream top level athlete and everything. I don't want to knock her or anything, but just the way she presents herself, you're like, oh, she'll do all right. But she really, really did almost at the same level of the higher echelon female athletes. So she definitely might be somebody to look forward to later on in future competitions.
Yeah, keep waiting. This is, episode 3, and I'm waiting for that. I want to see a 5th woman make it up the warped wall, and I haven't even really. Well, this is actually the first time I got to see an attempt. It's because this race ended up being Casey versus Grace trying to get up the warped wall, and this is the first time we saw them. Nobody able to make it up. Actually, they did their 3 tries, and we learned that that's it. So Casey got there faster, so it ended up going to the point went to Casey.
Yeah, but, both athletes got very close. I think it's just the whole point of, you really get winded doing these obstacles, and maybe their legs just didn't have enough in them. Also the adrenaline of, you can't catch too much of your breath because what if the person next to you, gets up the warped wall ahead of you. So, yeah, it sucks, but I'm glad, they got the attempts and we got to see how close they got,
Yeah, it helps add a little bit to it, right? Like you said, you almost can overlook the warped wall sometimes. And I feel like Team Ninja Warrior is doing a good job of bringing it back to being the respectable obstacle that it is, because they're going so fast, they're burning themselves out. They have to judge their speed versus their competitor, and it just makes the warped wall so much more exciting than we have seen it in recent years.
Yeah, great point, man. Warped wall needs to be respected. You hear that, everybody? Respect the warped wall.
Respect the wall. So we've got... So that was a good race. And then we got Ryan Stratis versus Brent Stephenson.
Yes.
And the team captains, every time the captains get up there, like, oh, God, I hadn't even thought, we're going to get to see this. This is great.
What a matchup, man.
Yeah, we were talking about it. We actually... we got a chance to watch the episode together. So as we're kind of making calls as we're going along, and we're like, I don't know, kind of leaning towards Brent on this one, but Stratis pulled it off, man. He pulled ahead on the floating steps, and he got it all.
He just went straight beast mode. You can seeing his eyes. Stratis was on a whole nother level. It was really close matchup. It was awesome to watch, and I gotta appreciate Stratis's heart. Obviously both men have a lot of heart for the competition, but Stratis, he really goes above and beyond, and I really love his shout out to Sasuke, giving a shout out to Makoto Nagano, and I think, oh God, what's the competitor's name? Toshihiro Takeda, I believe is his name. They do this small little backslap to each other right before they race. It's kind of like a symbol of respect to the course. And they do, he does it with his friend. And I don't know, those small little things just shows how much he loves this sport,
Yeah, he's one of the, both of them have been around for so long, as they mentioned on the show. They've basically built the foundation of American Ninja Warrior as we know it. So it's great to have that old school camaraderie still there.
Yeah, and big shout out also to Ryan Stratis. When he was just a little bit behind with the floating steps, what he did was he used a grip technique where he skipped almost 4 steps with his wingspan to catch up to Brent Stephenson, and it really made up a lot of time, and I think that was the key to him ultimately winning. So good on him for adjusting his technique and doing that risk.
Yeah, so with that win, Stratisfaction takes the round. And we moved over to the other matchup, which was the Expendabulls versus the Tre Amigos. And right off the bat, again, we get to see Andy Lowe's versus Alan Keneally. Two guys that I watch out for regularly on this show, because we've got Andy Lowe's, who I interviewed a few months back, a really nice guy. And Alan Keneally, I've been keeping an eye out on him, kind of a strange reason, but he's one of the few guys on the show that actually has a little hair in his chest, and I just appreciate the fact that he doesn't go in for that polished look that everyone else does.
Hey, what's wrong with shaving your chest?
Yeah, keep it natural. Come on.
Yeah, gotta respect him. Get a little man chest hair. These guys, I have to give a lot of respect to Keneally just because it was Keneally, right?
Yep.
Okay, I was like, I hope I was the right guy. Yeah, Keneally, I got to give him a lot of respect because he really moved incredibly fast for a big man. I mean, this guy is really big. Not like big as in fat, but like really big in terms of like muscularity and height. And this course doesn't lend itself too well to too big of men, and he really kept a really breakneck pace. So I got to give him all the respect in the world. Andy Lowe's ultimately won, but man, Keneally definitely held his own in it.
Yeah, the difference was the dismount, right, from the floating steps. Andy just dismounted sooner.
Yeah, it was just like I think Keneally did one extra swing, one little kip up.
That's all it takes. That's all it takes in these crazy races.
Yep.
So moving on from there, we had Cassandra Dortch versus Lucy Romberg. So the return of Lucy.
Romberg, yes. The OG penultimate go-to female athlete of American Ninja Warrior. So happy to see her back.
Yeah, I was really excited to see how she would do. And she didn't let us down. She did awesome. Cassandra started to fall behind, and she ended up falling on the log grip. So Lucy ended up getting the point.
Yeah, and it accentuated Cassandra when you saw her. She was a little bit cautious, and her technique wasn't necessarily fully there. It showed a little bit of inexperience, and it was one thing that we highlighted in the preview where Cassandra Dortch, she's very much in shape and everything, but in all of her training videos and everything we've seen from her, she's training more cosmetically, more of a CrossFit style of training, and we haven't seen her train necessarily on obstacles. And I think that makes a big difference. You can be in great shape and do decent on these obstacles, but ultimately it comes down to technique, and you need to know how to handle certain obstacles. And that definitely accentuated the point in this competition.
Okay. And from there, we went on to the captains. So that was tied up, 1 point each. So we'll move on to the captains, and we've got Kevin Bull versus Tremaine Dortch. So 16
abs altogether.
Yeah, it's the battle of the abs. These guys are just ripped, both of them.
Yeah.
And it was probably the most, I have to say, if we're going to give it a surprising run of the night, this had to be it. So Kevin falls on the dancing stones, wipes out. Tremaine isn't on the stones yet. He's got time to stop and pair. All he has to do is get past him. First of all, Kevin falling was surprising, but then Tremaine falling behind him.
I couldn't believe Tremaine fall. He had all the time in the world, to go cautiously. I mean, the dancing steps are difficult, but they seem at least doable if you take your time and are cautious about it. Doable to a certain level of athletic for an athlete the size of Tremaine Dortch. Man, that was shocking. I really don't know what the issue was that made him fall. It was clearly a misstep, but I feel like he should have known to plant his feet square on the top of them.
Again, I think just overlooking them, especially, I guess, it's one thing when you're rushing, but at this point, I mean, he was thinking, okay, I just got to go across these steps, and probably not thinking much of it, and just didn't respect them, I guess. And
and watching back on the very last step, he had his head up and he was not looking at the step. So again, you got to look at those steps. You got to watch that foot placement.
So big surprise there. So the Expendabulls end up winning the round.
Yeah. So far, I'm pretty good with the teams that are going through, and these matchups. Ooh, there's a matchup that I'm really excited to see, which is Team Alpha versus the Expendabulls. Oh my God, ready for it.
Yeah, for sure. Especially seeing the women from those two. So we'll get to that one eventually, but right off the bat, so that just happens, and then so the Tre Amigos have to go again right away, and it ends up being the captains that go first, Tremaine Dortch versus Ryan Stratis.
I just realized Team Stratisfaction really had an easy time in terms of the matchups this entire episode, because in both of their later matchups, they're going against a team that just went that is probably quite winded.
That's a good point. They got the good seed spot.
Yes, they did.
So yeah, it actually lends a lot of plausibility, I guess, to your theory from last week that maybe the winner from one round gets to decide who goes in the next. Because we had the captains do that last week too. It would make a lot of sense, if you're Ryan Stratis and you're looking at Tremaine Dortch who just fell, you're thinking, well, I'll take him now, right? We'll go now. He's a little winded. Maybe that'll work in my favor.
Yeah, good point, man. It's definitely something to keep an eye out for. And yeah, I think that might be the case. Also, big shout out to Ryan Stratis doing the thing that I love. He stepped on Tremaine Dortch's foot on the middle step, just kind of, nudging in that little bit of messing him up. And they both almost fell on that particular part. But I love the fact that, I don't even know if it was on purpose or not, but just seeing those types of things happen, gotta love it, man.
Yeah, they both did. Really, they fell. They just didn't fall to the ground. Right? They both stumbled pretty badly, and it was so close on the wall. But Stratis ended up winning the match.
Yeah. Once again, one of the key for Stratis winning is he was using that really wide technique on the floating steps, where he skipped 4 steps at a time, and Tremaine Dortch was only going one by one. It really made a big difference.
Okay, and moving on to Cassandra versus Grace. So this time, they got a lot further through the course. Grace actually got to the wall, but as she did get there, Cassandra ended up falling off the floating steps, just trying to keep up with her. It was a pretty good matchup. I was kind of looking forward to seeing them make more attempts at the wall. Like I said, I'm kind of hoping Team Ninja Warrior gives us a fifth lady up the wall, but we didn't get it here this episode.
Yeah, it's going to happen eventually. I mean, I think you might get one woman up a wall, maybe an episode or every other episode, but there's definitely some strong women athletes coming up in the season, so there's going to be some more women going up that wall. And I got to give a shout out to both female athletes in this particular competition, because they had to stick through a very long run. Their run was a lot longer than the others, and they kept at it. They showed a lot of heart. And even Cassandra Dortch, even though she's inexperienced, she definitely tried her hardest, and she got pretty far. She learned from her mistakes on her first run, and that's all I can ask for.
Yeah. So then we had the 2-point run. I don't know, it's not the captain run this time. It's Andy Lowe's versus Mike Bernardo, two speed demons.
That's a good point. I just realized. So the captain run doesn't necessarily count as a 2-point run. It's just the third run.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. So I saw somewhere,
it's a good matchup, man.
Yeah, and I couldn't figure out. I mean, I kind of got why, but it made a lot more sense to me when it was pointed out that means that every run counts, and because if they were all the same number of points, if somebody won the first 2, the third one wouldn't matter. Mm-hmm. Right? So that means that no matter what happens through the first 2 runs, the third one matters, but it also means that they can be very key in the win too, right? It doesn't make them any less important than the third run.
Yeah, and I feel like also if the winning team does choose a placement, I feel like that plays a big factor in it also.
Yeah. So Andy versus Mike, Andy ended up falling on the floating steps. He was just trying to skip ahead multiple steps, and he ended up taking a spill. Kind of a really surprising fall right just at the beginning of it.
Yeah, he messed up pretty bad. It was just a last judgment, but he tried to risk. It did not pan out for him in the slightest. I don't think he was very even close for that jump to get to the floating steps. It looks like he missed it pretty bad. But hey, I guess you got to make risks, but that one definitely didn't pan out for him.
Yeah, it's always easy to judge afterwards. If it had worked, we'd call him a genius and we'd be praising him as the next Team Ninja Warrior god. But unfortunately, he just missed the step.
Yeah, and I think Brent does it later on in the episode, and, he does it. So it's definitely a risk worth trying, I guess, because it's doable, but it just didn't pan out for him.
Yeah, so with that, the Stratisfaction takes the round and moves into the final relay. And then we have the squaring off of our teams. So the picks we had, for those that didn't listen to last episode, my turn to rub it in a little bit here. Bijan picked Team Alpha to win it, and I picked the Expendabulls. So here we had them squaring off against each other.
I don't know what you're talking about, man. I don't remember that.
Yeah. Hey, I edit this. I can weave in the comments here right now. Just leave a little gap, and I'll put it in there.
That wasn't me. That was somebody else.
So right off the bat, we've got Alan Keneally versus Evan Dollard. Man, that was a good race. That one was awesome. Absolutely loved it.
So close. Oh, I loved it.
Yeah, Evan just beat him to the buzzer with like this crazy dismount off the floating steps. They just right neck and neck to the end.
They were like side by side almost the entire race, and they land on the platform from the floating steps at the exact same time. So they literally ran it up at the same pace. I have to imagine this might have been the shortest time difference in between buzzer presses. I mean, they were literally like, I think it might have just been a second or a millisecond between the buzzer hits. They were so close, man.
Yeah. But Evan ended up winning it, so that was a point to Team Alpha. And then, so then after that, we get the epic showdown. We have Lucy Romberg versus Casey Catanzaro, probably something that a lot of fans have been looking forward to, especially the old school fans that know who Lucy is.
Oh, yeah. This is the one I've been wanting to see the entire episode. I was like, I don't really care about Brent and Kevin Bull. I want Lucy and Casey matching up against each other. And they did not disappoint. You've got the OG female Ninja Warrior athlete and the modern female Ninja Warrior athlete. I'm talking about like what the show presents to you as like the main star, And man, it was so great watching them go, and it accentuated also both of the women's strengths in terms of athleticism. Lucy's a little bit better in transition obstacles, in I don't know, just body positioning and everything. However, Casey's very much, I feel like Casey's stronger when it comes to the more difficult obstacles. Okay,
yeah, and their stature is pretty close too, right? They're both around the same size, so it was really interesting watching them go. But unfortunately, Lucy ended up falling on the stones. The infamous stones took her out.
Mm-hmm. She was doing great before that, though.
Yeah, it was so neck and neck. I was just looking forward to the race up the wall. But we didn't get to see that. We did get to see Casey continued on and wanted to prove that she could do the wall after having struggled with it the last round. And she did go right up the wall this time, and it was great to see.
Yeah, and I'm really glad she went on with it and did the wall. I feel like it said a lot for a lot of the girls watching her, because Casey, more than any other athlete on the show, I think has a very strong following, especially of younger viewers, and she can influence a lot of people. And I think, like, for her, it was important for her to get up the wall and show, everybody that she can do it. I'm really glad she did that.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. If you were in the audience, you just want to see Casey do it, right? Like, there's no way that you don't want to see that when you're there. It's such an infamous, iconic moment from the show's history now. Recent history, I guess, but still. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was great to see her do it.
Yeah, and you have to, realize it's probably really easy for her just to be like, all right, I'm done. But she still did it.
Yeah. I mean, that's what most people did. To technically, when Cassandra fell on the floating steps, Grace could have made her attempt at the wall in the previous run, but she decided not to, which you can't fault her for that either.
No. You better believe I'd be one of the people being like, yeah, I'm done.
So at this point, we're looking at Team Alpha with 2 points and 0 for the Expendabulls. So I was feeling a little in trouble. So then we have Kevin versus Brent, and it's certainly no guarantee on who's got this race. And it was a really good epic race. They both ended up missing the wall the first time, but Kevin was able to get it up on the second chance, and thank God he had the second chance.
Yeah. Not much. They were so close, and the thing about them is they are so close to each other in terms of skill. Like neither has really big faults in terms of athleticism or just awareness when it comes to this sport. I feel like Kevin Bull just had a little bit more in the tank when it came to that final run.
Yeah, so with that, because it was worth 2 points, we ended up with a tie, so we had to go to a tie-breaking round. And we were both hoping that the teams would just kind of agree to let the women decide it, but they didn't end up going that route, unfortunately. So we got a repeat, which was cool to see, too. We got to see Kevin versus Brent again immediately, which must have been pretty exhausting.
I felt like whoever wins this race, I feel so bad for them going into the relay because they just ran 2 runs at probably exhausting everything they have into it. And then they have to go against, the winning team of the Team Stratisfaction. So that's a tough order to take,
Yeah. So off they go. Kevin versus Brent again, and Brent ended up falling on the dancing stones. Those things have taken out the most competitors pretty easily, I think, through this whole series so far.
Oh yeah, it's clearly the Ninja Killer, and I wish we got to see them all the way to the end and maybe have a repeat of what we saw in their first run, but those dancing stones, they are a big hurdle to get past. Yeah,
so then we moved on to the final relay, and they went with the pretty standard... Actually, no, they did switch it up. So they had the women go first. They had Lucy versus Grace as the first leg, but they did the captains in the middle this time. They did Ryan Stratis versus Kevin Bull on the second half, which ended at the warped wall. And then Mike Bernardo versus Alan Keneally for the final leg. Did you think that was kind of an odd choice?
It was, just because bigger men sometimes are going to have... They'll do well in some of the upper body obstacles, like the first 2 parts of their part of the relay where they're doing the floating or the sideways ladders and the salmon ladder. I'm sure they'll do great at that. But when it comes to the final obstacle, especially the rope climb part of it, as a bigger man, you're going to really have a tough time doing that because you're pretty much lifting up all of your body weight. And trust me, they probably have a lot of body weight in terms of their muscle mass, pulling yourself up. So it was a strange choice, but, maybe there were some factors that we weren't thinking about. Maybe Kevin Bull and Ryan Stratis, probably more Kevin Bull, was more exhausted, and maybe the obstacles they were facing might have been a little bit easier on them. I'm just not sure.
Yeah, it's hard to say exactly. I would guess that Bull was probably looking at it being exhausted at that point and thinking that was probably a better spot for him. I was going to guess with Brian Stratis, it's either that he just wanted to pair off, as the captain, with the other captain, or maybe he knew Bernardo was better at rope climb. I mean, Bernardo killed the last leg of this race, not to jump ahead a bit, but so let's actually run through it. So Lucy versus Grace was actually a pretty dead even race. Like, I was really shocked at how well Grace kept up with Lucy through that first leg.
Grace was great, man.
So then, speaking of shocked, Ryan ends up falling, right? Stratus falls on the dancing stones, and we get to see our first time penalty, so we learned how that worked. So Kevin Bull continues on, tags in Alan Keneally at the top of the warped wall, and at that point, they've got a 10-second wait before Mike Bernardo can take off. Do you think that makes
10 seconds? Well, I'll tell you this: that 10 seconds, it really makes a difference. That was the longest 10 seconds watching it. I was like, whoo. I like how they have that penalty rather than just completely disqualifying the team. But the 10 seconds is almost such a big deficit where it's probably so difficult for the other team to catch up. But Keneally really did well on his portion of the last leg. He did a really good job almost catching up. So it was fairly close.
I think you mean Bernardo, but yeah. So Keneally did do a good job of getting through, but Bernardo almost caught him because he was doing just so much better. Like, he was just amazing through that back half.
Yeah. Which one? Who's the one with the caution tape on his head?
I didn't even notice the caution tape. It must have been Bernardo. So Keneally's the bigger, hairier guy that actually ended up winning it.
Then, yeah, sorry, I meant Bernardo. Yeah. Mixing up names now. Basically, I have both of them pegged as the big guys, so it kind of mixes me up sometimes. Yeah, Bernardo did great catching up to him.
Yeah, so another good episode in the bag. So yeah, can't look. I mean, just week after week, it just keeps getting better. I keep worrying that they're going to blow through all the favorites, but then I realize how many more favorites are still left to go. Right, we still haven't seen Real Life Beasts, for example. We haven't seen Drew's team. We haven't seen Flip Rodriguez or Noel Kaufman. We haven't seen a lot of these guys yet. Yeah,
and you got to expect a lot of them. I expect one of those teams to do really well. And, just looking at the teams that have made it through, they're surprising, but they're so strong in their own, ways. And I really like how this show is shaping up, because it's kind of like a breath of fresh air. It's not the same people that you expect to win. It's a lot of newcomers, especially on the team, where I don't know. I feel like it's going to give them a lot of credibility going into next season of American Ninja Warrior, where you'll know, hey, they made it to the finals of Team Ninja Warrior. These are definitely higher end athletes than I gave them credit for before. Yeah, we're going to get to see them do at least one more round of, I'm not even sure how they're going to decide the whole finals thing. I'm guessing it'd be a similar layout, but probably not necessarily the same. I feel like it'll be bracketed where, you have the preliminaries, and it goes down to like semifinals and then the finals. Okay, so that was it for our Team Ninja Warrior coverage. Unfortunately, we don't know who's going to be running next week, so we can't make our predictions this time. But we do look forward to seeing who it's going to be and sharing that with you. Moving on to our National Ninja League coverage. This time we're looking at the results for the alternate routes qualifier in White Marsh, Maryland. Unfortunately, they were missing a couple of the videos. We didn't get to see everything, but the results that were given were for the females. In third place was Paris Brown. Unfortunately, no video available for that. In second was Kim Winch. For her, they did have a little bit of video, and we saw her go out on these balance springs, which is, man, they're inventive with the obstacles at these gyms. What did you think of those balance springs that they had to step across? They were like slack lines that were elevated a little bit, and it looks like it can trip you up very easily. I mean, anybody that's been on a slack line that has a little bit of give, those are not easy. I really don't know what to say. That it looks rough because it looks like she pressed down on it. And the problem with the slack line is you can't really like step off of it. You can't really press your weight against it to spring forward. It'll really mess you up that way. I think it was just bad technique. It's easier to just balance straight and then go transition from it. But, that's just the nitty gritty of technique. I don't think anybody cares about that stuff. Yeah, well, she did really well.
she ended up getting second place, which means that she does qualify for the National Ninja League Finals. And in first place, we had Megan Wilson, and unfortunately, we didn't have video for her either. So, not much we can say about Paris and Megan other than good job getting first and third against a strong field from what we can see. So, we'll move over to the men's finals. In third place was Alex Mosley. He beat the springs and slackline. They show him doing... Now, even Chris didn't seem to know what to call this obstacle. It was like a ring toss, but they had nunchucks with little hooks on them to move along it. It looked really cool.
Yeah, they were inventive with pretty common obstacles. Like, there are obstacles that you've seen before, but they have like little tiny spins on them. And it looks like just a really, really fun course in general. I really like what they did with it.
Yeah, he ended up just barely completing the invisible ladder and timing out at that point in the course. It looks like they actually just kind of made this course so impossibly long. We've seen that before where it's so long that it's just basically how many obstacles can you possibly do? No one's going to complete the course, but just get as far as you can. So in second place was actually a new guy, Nick Kostrecki. It showed him doing a few different things. His double salmon ladder was solid. He made it just past the invisible ladder, just like Alex, and timed out there as well. So another good job by Nick. And in first place, we had Zach Day, which is kind of surprising. When you look at the field, the competitors that were there's a lot of big top competitors, right? Jeff Britton was there, Mike Bernardo. These guys are no joke, and Zach beat them all to get first place. And they showed Zach just completing everything really efficiently, made it well past everybody else. Two obstacles, I think they said, past any other competitor.
Yeah, I mean, he was really impressive. Very good control of his body when it comes to the upper body obstacles. He's not swinging too much, and he's not like out of control. And even the obstacles that might not have lended to his strengths, he did with great precision, like ones where he's having to hold up his own body weight and everything. So this is definitely somebody to look out for. He was really impressive, and anybody that can beat Jeff Britton and all the other competitors that you brought up, you got to know he's he's definitely talented. Yeah,
and so then Chris moved on from there. Chris Wilczewski moved on to mention another competition that took place. This one at Ninja Quest, and it was kind of funny because he brought it up because he wanted to show a video of the top female competitor, who was Kirsty Myers. Now, Kirsty had actually just coincidentally reached out to us this week to share her love of the podcast, which thank you very much, Kirsty. I'm hoping you're listening right now. And shared her video of her run, which was absolutely amazing. Oh my God, this thing was great.
This was one of the best videos I've seen and runs I've seen, especially from a female athlete. Showed strengths that she's almost like Jeff Britton level in terms of like upper body control of her body and her forearm strength. Forearm strength is so difficult to have, and this particular athlete, Chrissy, she is so good. She was really calm with a lot of the obstacles where lesser competitors would try to get out of it as soon as possible. She showed really good control, like on Cannonball Alley, cargo nets, and everything, every like type of obstacle where it looks like it might be difficult for her. She just hit it with such precision and poise. She was... Trust me, everybody that's listening, you have to go out and watch this video. It is breathtaking to see. Just when you see an athlete hit a course with this level, like fluidity, it's truly like art to behold, and it is so cool.
Yeah, like there's so many things that I don't even know where to start. This is actually this was our video of the week because I didn't even have to look at any other videos to know that this was a video of the week. Absolutely amazing. She goes up the warped wall twice, at different heights. she does this ring toss. She goes all the way along on the ring toss, turns around and goes back the way she came. Isn't allowed to like drop off at that point. Climbs up these beams and across a bar, and then does like a devil steps. Like it's just it's not their devil steps, but like the floating steps. Mm-hmm. All without resting, all without taking a real pause. Like it's just unbelievable how far she went.
Yeah, but what happened after that was even the thing that I really got a lot of respect for her of is right after that those two obstacles that you just mentioned, she has to go straight into this other double set of obstacles, which is I forget its name, but what's the one where that was featured on the military episode of Ninja Warrior that pretty much cleared out everybody?
I think it was the I-beam cross.
So yeah, she has to do the high beam cross, and she does it, which props to her because everybody listening to this knows how difficult that obstacle is. And without like gutting or touching the floor, getting a rest, she has to transition from it while she's still upside down on the high beam cross into pegboards, a transitional horizontal pegboard obstacle. It's just insane.
Yeah, so we'll be sharing that out. Definitely check it out. If you're listening to this, you're crazy if you don't listen to that. Go watch that video immediately. Just absolutely loved it. So thank you very much, Kirsty, for sending that to us. We loved it. And
shout out to you. Sorry, but shout out to you, Christy. That like really talented. I really hope to see you on the show because, man, you got some impressive skills. I'll tell you that. Okay,
so in other ninja news, just before we wrap it up, we found out this week that host of the show, Matt Eisman, is going to be on Celebrity Apprentice. So that's kind of cool.
That is awesome. Like, now I'm actually going to watch Celebrity Apprentice. I have a reason to watch it. So props to that. And, Arnold Schwarzenegger is going to be hosting this. So everybody, if you got some issues with the former host, I'm not going to bring up his name because I'm not a big fan of him. You don't have to deal with that at least. And yeah, I'm excited for this upcoming season, man. They got some cool people on that season, and I'm really glad that Matt Eisman's on it to pretty much represent American Ninja Warrior. Both Celebrity Apprentice and American Ninja Warrior are two top shows on NBC, so there might be, some networking involved of why he's on the show, but I'm really glad it gives a big platform to pretty much promote American Ninja Warrior to an audience that might not know about it.
Yeah, Matt's a pretty great guy. So glad to see him getting that opportunity. And like you said, I've actually never watched Celebrity Apprentice, but I just might watch this season now that he's going to be on there.
Yeah, fun times.
Yeah. And the other thing that we wanted to bring up, again, is the Wolfpack Ninja podcast, for those that aren't aware. So the Wolfpack being Noah Kaufman, Brian Arnold, Ian Dory, and Megan Martin, without Isaac Caldero, who is actually currently traveling the world with his winnings from last season, which was kind of cool.
Must be nice.
Yeah. Who can blame him?
Oh, I don't.
Yeah, so those guys are great. I wanted to give them another shout out. So if you haven't checked it out, definitely check it out. They are on iTunes, and really good guys and girl, and really interesting podcast that I've definitely keeping subscribed to and listening to. And we highly encourage you to subscribe to us as well. If you haven't already, subscribe and rate us on iTunes. And feel free to reach out to us. If you have a video like Kirsty that you'd like to share with us, we'd love to see it. You can either email us the link at rich@ninjapodcast.com, or Kirsty actually reached out to us on Facebook. That's always another way you can reach us. Or feel free to hit us up on Twitter. That's @ninjapodcast. So once again, thank you all for listening, and I hope you have a great week.
Peace.
A special thanks to Kathleen Martin for the song Player v Player Remastered from Bandcamp.com.
Thank you all for listening and have a lovely day.